thrilled with my life. I thank you, God, for giving me back so much. My daughter's fine. I have no complaints, right? But every once in a while I think, oh.
Fans never noticed these things about Caroll Burnet, show the beloved variety program that ran from 1967 to 1978, captivated American audiences with its unique blend of comedy, music, and guest stars. For 11 seasons, viewers tuned in weekly to watch Caroll Burnet and her talented ensemble cast, including Harvey Korman, Vicki Lawrence, Tim Conway, and later Dick Van Dyke, create memorable characters and unforgettable moments that have become part of television history. What appeared as effortless comedy on screen, however, was the result of meticulous preparation, professional dedication, and boundless creativity behind the scenes. While fans laughed at the sketch's musical numbers and Caroll's famous question-and-answer sessions with the audience, many fascinating details about the production remained hidden from public view, only coming to light years later through interviews, memoirs, and retrospective specials. These behind-the-scenes insights not only enhance our appreciation of the show's brilliance, but also reveal the extraordinary talent and teamwork that made The Caroll Burnet Show one of the most successful and influential comedy programs in television history. One of the most surprising aspects of The Caroll Burnet Show that fans didn't initially realize was the incredibly rapid costume changes that occurred between sketches. The show's format required performers to transform from one character to another, often in less than 2 minutes. This demanded not only quick change artistry from the cast, but also an army of dressers working with military precision backstage. Caroll herself holds the record for the fastest costume change in the show's history, transforming from one character to another in just 17 seconds a feat, accomplished with the help of 3 dressers who had rehearsed the change like a choreographed dance. Costumes were specifically designed with quick changes in mind, featuring strategically placed zippers, Velcro, and snap fasteners that could be undone and redone in seconds. What viewers saw as a seamless transition between sketches was actually a breathless behind-the-scenes race against time, with costumers, makeup artists, and wig specialists working feverishly to prepare the performers for their next appearance. This hidden aspect of production required as much rehearsal and timing as the sketches themselves, creating a backstage ballet that was every bit as impressive as what appeared on camera. The famous ear-tugging gesture that Caroll performed at the end of each show held a special meaning that many viewers didn't initially understand. What appeared to be a quirky signature move was actually a sweet personal message to Caroll's grandmother, Mabel, who had raised her. Before Caroll achieved television fame, her grandmother would watch her early television appearances and then call to tell her what she thought of the performance. When Caroll landed her own variety show, she wanted a way to acknowledge her grandmother, who was now watching from home. The ear tug became her way of saying, "Hello, I love you," to the woman who had been so instrumental in her life and career. Caroll continued the tradition throughout the show's run, even after her grandmother passed away, as a tribute to her memory and influence. This small personal gesture, hidden in plain sight at the end of every episode, connected the public performance to Caroll's private life, creating a touching moment of genuine emotion amidst the comedy and spectacle that characterized the rest of the program. Another little-known fact about The Caroll Burnet Show was the extraordinary amount of preparation that went into the elaborate musical numbers. While viewers marveled at the production values of these performances, few realized that each musical segment required days of rehearsal and preparation. Caroll, who had studied music and initially aspired to a career in musical theater, approached these numbers with professional dedication, insisting on proper vocal training and preparation. The show employed a 28-piece orchestra conducted by Harry Zimmerman and later Peter Matz, providing live music for each episode, a rarity in television production even then. Costume designer Bob Mackie, who would go on to become a legendary figure in fashion, created unique outfits for each musical number, often producing over 60 costumes per week for the cast and dancers. These segments, which might occupy only a few minutes of screen time, represented hundreds of hours of work from dozens of professionals, all coordinated to create the seamless performances that viewers enjoyed. The level of production value for what was essentially a weekly variety show was unprecedented, requiring a budget and commitment to quality that networks would typically reserve for special one-time events rather than regular programming. Perhaps the most surprising behind-the-scenes revelation about The Caroll Burnet Show involves the famous family sketches that would later evolve into the spin-off series, Mama's Family. These beloved segments featuring dysfunctional relatives Eunice, Ed, and Mama were initially met with mixed reactions from the show's writers and network executives. Many felt the sketches were too dark and dramatic for a comedy variety show, straying too far from the laugh-out-loud humor that characterized the rest of the program. Caroll, however, fought for these characters, believing they represented something authentic and emotionally resonant, despite their sometimes uncomfortable humor. What viewers didn't know was that the first family sketch almost didn't make it to air, with CBS executives expressing concern about its tone and content. Only Caroll's insistence and willingness to stake her reputation on the segment's quality ensured it would be broadcast. The audience response proved her instincts correct, with viewers connecting deeply to these flawed, relatable characters. The sketches became some of the most requested and remembered segments of the show, demonstrating Caroll's understanding that the most powerful comedy often comes from recognizable human truth, rather than mere slapstick or jokes. The on-screen chemistry between the cast members, particularly Caroll Burnet and Harvey Korman, was a hallmark of the show, but what audiences didn't fully appreciate was how this professional relationship developed and deepened over time. When the show began, Korman was actually more established in television comedy than Burnet, having worked extensively on The Danny Kaye Show. He initially signed a one-year contract, uncertain about joining a program headlined by a woman at a time when most variety shows were hosted by men. That tentative beginning blossomed into an 11-year partnership with Korman, becoming one of Caroll's most trusted collaborators and friends. Their professional respect was evident in how they approached their work together, with both performers committed to supporting each other's comedic moments rather than competing for laughs. This generosity extended throughout the cast, creating an ensemble approach unusual in star-driven variety programs. Viewers sensed this genuine affection, but didn't know about the considerable time the cast spent together off-camera, developing their working relationships through dinners, social gatherings, and even family vacations that strengthened their on-screen connections and created a performing shorthand that enhanced their comedic timing and responsiveness. Tim Conway's legendary ability to make his castmates break character and laugh during sketches has become part of television lore, but fans didn't initially realize how deliberately he worked to create these moments. Conway, who joined the show as a regular cast member in 1975, after numerous guest appearances, became famous for his spontaneous improvisations and character embellishments that would catch his fellow performers, particularly Harvey Korman, off guard. What appeared as completely unplanned moments were actually calculated risks by Conway, who would often save his most outrageous interpretations for the final taping, never revealing them during rehearsals. In the famous dentist sketch, for instance, Conway deliberately kept his plan to accidentally inject himself with Novocaine a secret until the live performance, ensuring Korman's genuine reaction. Similarly, the excruciatingly slow movements of his oldest man character would be even slower during the actual broadcast than in rehearsal, pushing Korman to the limits of his composure. These weren't merely self-indulgent attempts to steal scenes, but rather Conway's understanding that genuine surprise from his fellow performers would create electric comedic moments that viewers would respond to. This strategy required extraordinary trust from the cast and producers, who allowed Conway this freedom, knowing that the resulting unscripted laughter often produced the show's most memorable moments. The famous question and answer sessions that opened each episode became a beloved trademark of the show, but their origin wasn't widely known to viewers. This segment wasn't part of the original format, but was added at Caroll's insistence based on her experience in theatrical productions, where she had enjoyed connecting directly with audiences. Network executives were skeptical, worried about the unpredictability of audience interaction and the potential for inappropriate questions or comments in an era of live television. Caroll persisted, arguing that this unscripted element would bring spontaneity and authenticity to the program. The compromise was that questions would be completely unvetted, maintaining genuine surprise, but the cameras would film for 15 to 20 minutes before the show officially began, allowing producers to select the most appropriate exchanges for broadcast. What viewers didn't realize was that these seemingly brief interactions often lasted much longer in reality, with Caroll sometimes spending up to half an hour talking with audience members before the official taping began. This commitment to audience connection created a warm, intimate atmosphere in the studio that translated to the home viewing experience, making audiences feel like participants rather than merely observers of the comedy that followed. One of the most endearing and least known aspects of the Caroll Burnet show was the cast's commitment to creating a supportive working environment for everyone involved in the production. At a time when television sets could be notoriously high-pressure and sometimes toxic workplaces, Caroll established a culture of respect and professionalism that extended to every member of the crew. She instituted a rule that anyone who yelled or behaved abusively to staff would be fired regardless of their position or importance to the show. This policy created loyalty among the production team, with many crew members remaining with the show for its entire 11-year run, an unusual level of consistency in television production. Caroll also organized regular Friday gathering after tapings where cast crew writers and musicians could socialize as equals, creating bonds that transcended professional hierarchy. This positive atmosphere translated to what viewers saw on screen, with performers who genuinely enjoyed working together and crew members who took personal pride in creating the highest quality show possible. The legacy of this approach extended far beyond the show itself, influencing how many of the people involved would manage their own productions in the future, establishing a model of respectful creative collaboration that contrasted sharply with the stereotype of the difficult, demanding star common in entertainment. The extraordinary elephant story from the Caroll Burnet show represents perhaps the most remarkable behind-the-scenes moment that fans never witnessed. During a Went with the Wind sketch, a parody of Gone with the Wind, the writers had included a scene involving an elephant, a seemingly impossible request given the constraints of a television studio. Rather than simply vetoing the idea as impractical, production designer Bill Horbach decided to investigate whether it might actually be possible. Through his connections, he located a trained elephant that could potentially be brought into the studio. But this presented unprecedented logistical challenges. The elephant would need to be transported to the studio facility, guided through standard doorways and hallways, not designed for animals of that size, and then kept calm amidst the lights, cameras, and audience. After considerable planning, the team determined it was technically feasible, though extremely challenging, and began making arrangements for this extraordinary guest performer. What happened next has become legendary among the show's cast and crew. On the day before filming, as final preparations were being made, Caroll asked to see a rehearsal with the elephant. When told that the animal was already en route to the studio, she called for an emergency production meeting. With the entire team assembled, she asked one simple question: "Has anyone thought about what we're going to do with all the elephant poop?" The room fell silent as everyone realized this fundamental oversight in their elaborate plans. No provisions had been made for managing the inevitable waste from a several-ton animal in a carpeted television studio surrounded by expensive equipment and well-dressed performers and audience members. After a moment of stunned silence, the decision was made to cancel the elephant's appearance, replacing the live animal with a costumed performer in an elephant suit. This last-minute change required script revisions, costume creation, and blocking adjustments, all accomplished within 24 hours before taping. The resulting sketch worked perfectly with viewers, never knowing how close they came to witnessing either television history or television disaster. This incident became a favorite story among the production team, exemplifying both the show's ambitious creativity and its practical problem-solving approach. The physical comedy that characterized many of the show's most famous sketches came with a price that viewers never saw. Caroll Burnet in particular subjected herself to considerable physical discomfort and even injury in service of comedy. The elaborate costumes designed by Bob Mackie, while visually stunning, were often heavy, restrictive, or precarious, making movement difficult and sometimes dangerous. The famous curtain dress from the Went with the Wind sketch, for instance, weighed nearly 40 pounds and severely limited Caroll's peripheral vision, leading to several near falls during rehearsal. Throughout the show's run, Caroll suffered numerous bruises, sprains, and minor injuries, performing physical comedy from falling down stairs to being dragged across floors, all without complaint or any indication to the audience that she was in discomfort. In one particularly memorable incident, she broke a small bone in her hand during a sketch, but continued performing for another 20 minutes before seeking medical attention during a commercial break. This commitment to physical comedy, regardless of personal comfort, reflected Caroll's vaudeville-inspired approach to performance, and her understanding that bodily humor, when done with commitment and skill, connects with audiences on a primal level that transcends mere verbal comedy. The graceful control with which she managed these physical challenges belied the technical difficulty involved, making viewers unaware of just how demanding these performances actually were. The Carol Burnett Show was groundbreaking in its representation of women in comedy, but many viewers didn't fully appreciate the barriers Carol was breaking as they enjoyed her performances. When the show premiered in 1967, the idea of a woman headlining and executive producing her own variety series was nearly unprecedented. CBS executives were initially hesitant about the concept only moving forward because an unusual clause in Carol's previous contract with the network guaranteed her the opportunity to create such a show if she desired. Many industry insiders predicted failure based on the conventional wisdom that audiences wouldn't accept a woman in the commanding position required to host a variety program. Caroll not only proved these doubts unfounded, but established new possibilities for women in television both on camera and behind the scenes. She insisted on hiring female writers at a time when comedy writing rooms were almost exclusively male, creating opportunities for women like Caroll Miller, who would go on to distinguished careers in television. Caroll's success demonstrated that women could be funny, powerful, and in control without sacrificing femininity or apologizing for their ambition, changing industry perceptions and opening doors for generations of female comedians who would follow. This feminist impact happened not through explicit political statements, but through Caroll's simple insistence on being taken seriously as a comedian, director, producer, and businesswoman, achievements that viewers appreciated without necessarily recognizing their groundbreaking nature. Despite its eventual status as a cultural touchstone, the Carol Burnett Show faced several near cancellations that fans never knew about during its original run. The program's impressive 11-season tenure suggests uninterrupted success, but internal network documents later revealed that CBS considered ending the show several times, particularly during its first 2 seasons when ratings were modest and production costs were high. What saved the show was a combination of critical acclaim, particularly the Emmy Awards. It began accumulating and strong performance in specific demographic groups that advertisers valued. Additionally, Caroll's contract gave her unusual leverage in negotiations, allowing the show time to find its audience and develop its distinctive style. In its middle seasons, the program achieved ratings dominance, becoming one of television's most watched shows, but faced another threat in its later years as changing audience tastes and competing programs began affecting viewership. Throughout these challenges, Caroll maintained creative control, refusing network suggestions to update the format or chase trends, believing correctly that the show's fundamental appeal was timeless rather than tied to passing fads. This artistic integrity preserved the program's quality and distinctive character through its entire run, creating a consistent body of work that has remained relevant and influential long after other trend-chasing shows of the era have been forgotten. The international influence of the Carol Burnett Show represents another aspect that American fans might not have fully appreciated. While the program was airing in the United States, it was also being broadcast in numerous countries around the world, including Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, and parts of Europe and Latin America. The physical comedy, musical performances, and character-based humor translated across cultural and linguistic boundaries, making the show accessible to viewers, regardless of their familiarity with American references or language. This global audience expanded the show's impact and ensured its enduring legacy, as performers and writers in other countries drew inspiration from its format and approach. Caroll herself was surprised to discover the show's international reach during personal appearances and tours, finding enthusiastic fans in places she had never visited before. This worldwide popularity contrasted with the somewhat parochial view of American television executives who often underestimated the universal appeal of well-crafted comedy performed with skill and humanity. The global success of the program demonstrated that genuine talent and emotional truth could transcend cultural differences, creating connections between audiences separated by geography, language, and experience, but united in their appreciation of authentic human comedy. The legacy of the Carol Burnett Show continues to influence television comedy and entertainment in ways that even devoted fans might not fully recognize. Beyond the obvious impact on variety and sketch comedy programs that followed the show, pioneered production techniques, unique approaches to character comedy, and business models that transformed television entertainment. Caroll's insistence on filming the show live to tape, with minimal stopping or editing, maintained the energy and spontaneity of theater while creating a permanent record of the performances. This approach influenced how many comedy programs would be produced in subsequent decades, preserving the benefits of audience interaction while allowing for the technical possibilities of television production. The show's character-based comedy, which found humor in recognizable human types and situations, rather than merely in jokes or gags, became a template for sophisticated comedy writing that could appeal to broad audiences without pandering or oversimplification. Perhaps most significantly, Caroll's business model as performer, executive producer, and owner of her show through her production company established a blueprint for creative control that many performers would later adopt. This arrangement allowed her to maintain artistic integrity while building valuable intellectual property that continued generating revenue long after the original broadcasts. In these ways, and many others, the Caroll Burnet Show quietly revolutionized television entertainment, creating innovations that became so thoroughly incorporated into the medium that their origin point became nearly invisible to casual observers. As viewers continue to discover and rediscover the Caroll Burnet Show through rerun streaming services and compilation specials, these hidden aspects of the program enhance our appreciation of what Caroll and her team accomplished each week for 11 remarkable seasons. What appeared as effortless comedy was the result of extraordinary effort. What seemed spontaneous often involved meticulous preparation, and what looked like simple entertainment frequently concealed groundbreaking innovation and artistic courage. The laughter that the show provoked came from genuine human connection skill developed through years of practice and the invisible collaboration of hundreds of talented professionals working at the height of their creative powers. Understanding these behind-the-scenes realities doesn't diminish the magic of the performances, but rather deepens our respect for the craftsmanship and commitment that made such magic possible. In the end, what fans never noticed about the Caroll Burnet Show reveals as much about the program's excellence as what was immediately apparent, making its achievement all the more impressive and its enduring appeal all the more understandable.